Well, hello there, everybody. I had a chance to speak with Sales Director James Hegyi during the shutdown in NYC about the state of the market. We just had a follow-up conversation to discuss where we are now that things have opened back up. Join us for our conversation, and don't forget to click subscribe and connect with me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Let's go. James, hello, how are you today?
Doing good. How are you?
I am lovely. It is a beautiful, sunny Tuesday. I'm enjoying the view from my office here. It's nice to be here.
I know it's a shame I had to draw the blinds here because it's so bright, but I feel guilty getting rid of the view on the 39th floor. So
Yes, there are worse things than to,
yeah,
to have
good
to pull
good
the curtain
problem to
down.
have.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, you and I spoke a few months ago. We did an IG Live that was very well watched. I think people enjoyed hearing about the market during the shutdown here in the city. And so I thought it would be a good idea for us to reconnect and kind of see where we are now that the market has opened up, now that things are starting to move again. You know, I can't believe it's Q3 2020
I know.
and here we are still, in the midst of kind of a strange world, but wanted to catch up and hear a little bit about what you're seeing out there as our sales director.
Yeah, well, it's funny. People might be surprised to hear this, and I think but New York City is alive and well. It's and I'm not just talking about the numbers, which thank God are the lowest in the country right now, and
Mhm.
from a health standpoint and safety standpoint, but the market has been alive, and it's you see a lot of there's a lot of misleading headlines out there, I think, in terms of the state of kind of where New York is, and we're seeing quite a bit of activity. It's been a nice, a lot of what we talked about in terms of what we
Mhm.
were hopeful for in terms of predictions is coming to fruition. Are you seeing? I'd imagine you're seeing the same.
I am, and I would say that the first month after we opened back up, after it was okay to do in-person appointments and showings, the first month was crazy, just busier than I think I've ever experienced in my 13 plus years here at the company. Just so much activity, so many buyers coming out, so many sellers that have been waiting for things to change and shift. And it was crazy. I am seeing, however, that in my perspective, that the buyer pool is really interested in low interest rates. They're really interested in, the fact that the city is quiet, that pricing is reasonable. And I think that although there's a lot of activity, it may be a good time to be in the market as a purchaser, because I am seeing that pricing is reasonable and that there is a little bit of negotiability if a seller is asking too much, if something's priced just right. They're getting multiple offers, but people are very cognizant of where we are, I think, and very concerned with data and making sure that they don't overpay for something given the atmosphere.
It's funny because right when we got let out of the gate on June 22nd, when phase two came into play and we're allowed to show properties, you have to keep in mind, during the whole New York on pause phase, everyone took their apartments off the market. So we came out to a very a state of low inventory across the board. And it actually made it pretty competitive. So very early on, we were seeing a ton of multiple offer scenarios, tight competition. Now inventory is starting to rise a little bit, and we're seeing a lot more of that flexibility that you're talking about. A lot of people kind of were, I think, from a buying standpoint, were hopeful for a bloodbath, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's a very healthy market. There's some room to move. There's more inventory coming on the market, but it's competitive enough where the market is holding itself up. Most people want to hold, and pre-COVID, they want to hold on for 10, 15 years. This is usually a long-term play for most people. Now people are looking at it as, well, in the next 2 to 3 years, I think there's
Yeah.
going to be a pretty big upswing. And I think there's a lot of excitement about that.
Yes, I mean, I have a contract out for something where it's a 2 bedroom. There's a recent comp in the building at 1.3. And the exact same unit, just one floor down, came on at 1.2. And that the market's not going to stay there. So you're getting an
Yeah.
automatic appreciation play once the city really becomes the city again, which hopefully will be soon. I have a feeling we're going to be in this state for a while. But you know that offices are going to reopen. You know that life is going to come back, and when that happens, then that's an immediate. It's going to be an immediate upswing in terms of pricing.
Yeah, and for sellers, it's a good timing play right now because the high level of interest is there. Not to say that that's going to go away. I don't believe it is. I think this is going to be a very stable market that's probably not going to have an upswing for another couple of years, but it's not. I don't think we're going to be looking at numbers that are going down. I think part of the concern with the circumstances that are happening is you would think a lot of people would be coming into the market as buyers expecting 20+%, depreciation and huge price drops. And that hasn't happened in New York for 40 years. So it's interesting, to see what we all know and feel to be true about New York is that it's super resilient, and has standed the test, has weathered a lot of different storms. This is one of them. And what we're seeing is kind of a very kind of level, flatline market. The upper end of the market, I think the most competitive segment of the market that we're seeing is 3 million and below. And I think, the upper end of the market, which was starting to suffer a little bit from an inventory glut pre-COVID, is still tending to suffer a little bit more. But you also, I think, have a lot more people that are willing to hold on a little bit longer in those scenarios. So yeah. It's interesting. It's kind of, you're seeing a little bit of everything in this market.
So the big question, right, is has the market in New York City collapsed? Has it totally collapsed?
I certainly hope not. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And that's what I've been telling a lot of our buyers is that, you shouldn't expect it to collapse. You shouldn't be waiting for rock bottom, because what does that say about the validity of what the New York market has to offer? So no, it's alive and well. And I think, again, there's a lot of kind of clickbait material out there that tries to catch a lot of headlines.
Sensationalism, right?
Yeah, a lot of sensationalism.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Now, that said, to your point about negotiability, what's been very interesting is that even the competitive stuff that we're seeing, multiple offers, in some scenarios are still taking place. But unlike kind of the old days of when multiple offers were taking place, we're not seeing things go well above the asking price. We're not seeing crazy bidding wars. But I think the latest statistic is, the average listing discount is 7.9%. Mm-hmm. Now that's based on second quarter data. So because the third quarter data is not out yet, I would expect that to go down to some degree in the third quarter, because a lot of what we've been seeing, and I know you've experienced a lot of this, we're seeing more 1%, 2%, 3% discounts, maybe 4% on the high end, unless it's a very particular. I think you're doing a deal with 11% off, so you did a great job negotiating there. Yes. But I wouldn't hold that up as that's the standard. It's I think that's just a unique.
And I think sellers are pricing more reasonably. I think that they know where we are.
Yeah.
And it's not a great idea for a seller to think that they are going to get necessarily, pre-COVID pricing right now, and they're not going to for a while.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that listing discount diminishment is because the sellers are coming onto the market. They are reducing prices, in a reasonable time frame if they're not selling, because that is where we are right now.
Yeah. With that said, I do think, we had our selling seminar this past weekend, which was a great success about educating people on the sell side of things. And I do think it's a good time if you are considering selling. The inventory is way lower now than what the moving average has been over the past 10 to 15 years. And again, it's a temporary phenomenon just because people took their apartments off the market, and obviously life got turned upside down. But now you have a lot of people that are, trying to figure out what the next move is. Do I, move out of the city? Am I going to upgrade? There's a lot of movement activity that I think is going to be coming. So inventory is probably going to rise steadily throughout the year, but as we speak right now, it's lower than the the moving average. So it's a good time to kind of fight off competition before it comes, and that's why I think sellers aren't knocking it out the park at the moment, but they are getting enough interest because there's enough demand of people wanting to get into the market, as we talked about, for
Yes.
the next 2 to 5 years. It's what we hoped for. Thank God numbers are low. People are getting a bit of a comfort level back, and let's hope it sustains.
And I would actually say, like, my neighborhood feels good right now. Like, people are out and about, people are going to the little cafes, staying safe, distancing, etc. But the city, I think, is getting a little bit of a bad rep in the news media. But it actually is not as bad, I don't think, as to be here. Like,
Yes.
the impression is.
There's quite a lot of good happening in the city, but yeah, it's so I think it's it's an interesting time, and hopefully it'll continue to just get better as we go along.
Well, I wanted to just touch on one thing, and that is that the interest rates are super, super low right now. So I think that a lot of buyers, I mentioned before, are timing right now because they can get maybe not 40% off, the ask, but they can get, a reasonable price for a space, and it's super cheap to borrow money. You said that we're now below 3% in terms of a rate.
Yeah, well, the latest Freddie Mac data for 30-year fixed is 2.98, so just under. And it was last month. It was 2.88. So it was, which was the lowest recorded in the history of recordation. So definitely a good time to borrow money. I don't think these are going to be rates that go up significantly anytime soon, but it's one of those things. If you're waiting out years, it's going to be hard to borrow money, probably this cheap. So it's certainly driving, I think, a driving force for a lot of people to get up and say, you know what, maybe I should take advantage of this. Just to put it in historical context, during the economic crash of 0809, we were looking at like around 6-ish%. So when you put that, into perspective, it's seriously low interest rates that exist there. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a major driving force that has helped. Again, I think it's partial. What has propped up the market has partially been the market never kind of went down. It just kind of got put on pause and then got reset. So all of the data that we're going by is data from the first quarter, which was strong data. And then that's kind of your baseline data. And then you also have these interest rates that have gone down since then, which I think is driving a lot of interest into the market. So it's, again, certainly, interesting stuff.
Yes, indeed. Well, I thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me. I think that maybe once the Q3 data comes out, we should have another chat and kind of see where we are at that point, if you're open to it.
As long as you'll have me back, I'll come.
Always like to talk to you. Well, again,
from two doors away.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you for chatting. To anybody who is watching, make sure that you connect with us on LinkedIn. You can email, give us a ring. Happy to hear your thoughts and to share any additional data that might be helpful. So thank you again, James, and I'll see you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.